Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Corey, I'm a violinist. We're gonna talk today about the 4 basic bowing techniques that every single violinist needs to know. Maybe you already know these. Maybe it's a good review for you. Maybe you're learning something new. We're gonna talk about détaché, legato, staccato, and spiccato. I'm gonna tell you what they all mean, don't worry. Before we jump into it, let's talk about how to properly hold your bow, move your bow. I just wanna make sure that your bow is moving properly. I think the best exercise for this is to put your violin down for a second and we're just gonna use your bow. So I want you to flip your bow upside down because we're gonna place it here on your shoulder. So we don't wanna put the rosin on your clothes or on your shoulder. So we're gonna flip our bow upside down, kind of do a bit of a bow hold situation. It doesn't have to be perfect, I'm not worried about that part. And then I want you to move your bow as if you're moving it on your violin. And as you move it, you're gonna notice we're obviously moving it beautifully and straight because it's really easy to do this. Like it really takes out all the guesswork and everything. Watch on your right hand, I almost said left, watch on your right hand what part of your hand is actually doing the majority of the work right now. It's coming from your elbow. Do you see that? My shoulder is literally not even moving currently at all. So if you find yourself being one of those people that as you play, you look like you're going on a run, this is what your bow looks like as you're doing that because it's coming from your shoulder. You want to minimize shoulder movement and have it come from your elbow here, right like that. Okay, grab your violin. Let's try it on the violin now. Just play some A's. And it should still be coming from the elbow. Again, if it's coming from your shoulder at all, your bow is going craziness, so make sure it's coming from your elbow. This is a great thing just to practice in the mirror if you need help, just double checking you're doing it correctly. Okay, so that's how to move your bow. If you are struggling with your bow hold, maybe you're learning by yourself, get yourself a tadpole because let me show you how incredibly genius this is. You're gonna hold it here with your left hand. And on this little tadpole, there's literally divots, indentions, everything to show you where every single one of your fingers needs to go so you can get very comfortable with the bow hold. So first of all, looking here, there is a little divot right here for your thumb. So your thumb is obviously, you always have to make sure you have a thumb bump like this. Place your little thumb bump on the divot. I like to say you should see your thumbnail. The next thing you're gonna do is we're gonna put our first finger down. There is this little washboard right here, and that's where you're gonna put your first finger. Genius, okay? Next thing is your second and third finger are gonna touch these little dots that are here, the little ridges, whatever you wanna call them, and then your pinky is gonna sit in this little swimming pool. I don't know if you can see that right there, like what? And that's your, the most perfect bow hold, and every single part of my hand can feel where it needs to be. And I think if you're struggling with your bow hold, this would be so helpful to kind of get a feel of what it's supposed to feel like. I personally am going to be using it for my little 18-month-old who's learning the violin, and every time I hand him the bow, of course the first thing he wants to do is play with the hair and pull out the strings, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But giving him this and helping him to learn how to respect the bow and hold the bow, I think would be so helpful. So now that our bow hold is set up, our bow is moving properly, let's jump into the 4 bow techniques that every violinist needs to know. The first one is détaché. It essentially means detached. And it's kind of like the most basic bow technique or bow style you were gonna learn from the very beginning. It goes like this. It's the one we all learned from the very beginning, right? I don't think I need to elaborate on that too much more. The second one is legato. Legato means long and connected and beautiful. I always love playing legato. And a lot of times legato is slurred. So when you're slurring, you're putting multiple notes into the same bow. That's essentially legato. If you are struggling with slurring, a great thing to do is to do hooked bows. So for instance, if I want to do that same exact thing, putting 4 notes in the bow, I'm gonna play 1, stop, the next one, go in the same direction, and the next one. Hi, buddy. The notation for legato is either a slur or you'll see a dash above it, which means legato long. The next one is staccato. Staccato again means detached, but this one is actually short. That's kind of when I see staccato, I think short. And the notation for this is the little dot that's above. And when you play this, that's staccato. Think about having stops on either side of the note. And if you're learning how to play short, play it slowly to begin with and make sure that there's a space on either side. Think of it as biting, like it needs to be short. If you have learned how to move your fingers and your wrist, this is a great time to start moving that because it helps to give a little bit more emphasis to the bite. So you can see my fingers and my wrist moving. So essentially the rest, at least at this speed, the rest of my hand is not moving. It's just my wrist and my fingers. If you have not learned how to do that yet, you can still do staccato. More kind of comes from the shoulder at this point, even though we're trying not to use the shoulder. And the last one is spiccato. And spiccato, again, means detached, obviously. But that means that it's going to be bouncing, like your bow is going to physically be bouncing. This is a slightly more advanced technique, but I'm gonna see if I can show you how to do it. Again, there's two ways to do it. You can do this moving your fingers and your wrist, especially when you're going faster. But another thing to do is to firm up your wrist, your fingers, your elbow even, especially if you're going fast. And it's a movement that comes from the shoulder again. You want to do it at the balance point, if you know where your balance point is. I'm going to do it at the balance point. Excuse my husband and my son. Because it has the most bounce there. And you see, my fingers are all nice and firm. What this would kind of sound like in a song is something like this. The notation for this is also just a dot above the note, similar to staccato, but knowing if you're supposed to do spiccato and staccato, a lot of times, if you have a teacher or an orchestra teacher, they'll tell you which one to do, because sometimes it just depends on the style of the piece, the composer, or the era, or it depends on the tempo of the piece. Those are the four main bowing techniques that every violinist needs to know. I know they're pretty basic, but I hope this kind of helped you to understand when you see different notations, which one you're supposed to be doing. Also, I know it's the summer and everyone gets in a practice rut. So if you are currently in a practice rut and need help getting back into your groove, I'm putting a recent video right here so that you can watch it and give you all the tips that I use to kind of help me get back practicing, because for a while I was also in a rut. You wanna try this, buddy? Hey Peter, where's the frog? Good job! You wanna play your violin? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go play the violin. I'll see you guys later.